quite like a lot of the side games that are around Warhammer 40,000. For instance, Necromunda is great. It's very, very interesting. I'm hoping to pick up a couple of video games about Necromunda. Gorka Morka was a lot of fun. Another side game of Warhammer 40,000, not quite so repetitive, no Ultramarines in sight. What else is that? Space Hulk. Now, sometimes Space Hulk is absolutely full of Ultramarines, but is Shadowrun? I'm not sure. There's a Warhammer Necromunda game called Hired Gun, and I think there's a Necromunda game that's just called Necromunda. That's like a turn-based sort of one by some guys that also did a game around Wardenheim, the Warhammer Fantasy Battle kind of side game. I see. I don't think I've heard of Shadowrun. But yeah, I think there's probably other examples of Warhammer 40,000 side games that aren't quite the main series, because I just find that people are so hyper invested in Space Marines that everything else just kind of falls to the side. There's a thing with the Total War Warhammer games where a lot of people online are obsessed with the Empire, which again is the kind of more generic-y, boring human faction. And yeah, people get a little bit too enthusiastic about those guys, even though there's everybody else more interesting to play in the game. So at least with that game, yeah, the poster child of the game is the regular boring humans, but at least you can ignore them, and there's other stuff going on. Whereas in Warhammer 40,000, Space Marine, Space Marine, Space Marine. Drives me mad. Yeah, when I do a playthrough of Total War Warhammer for YouTube, I'll probably be playing the Orcs and the Goblins, because they're great fun. Or if I'm not, I'll be playing the Vampire Counts, because they're awesome too. Lots of cool undead stuff going on. Because in Total War Warhammer and, you know, Warhammer Fantasy Battle, you've got regular vampire counts that are more like your classical Victorian style undead vampires, but also you've got the Vampire Coast, which are a bunch of vampire pirates, which is awesome. All their zombies have, like, you know, pistols and gunpowder stuff, which is amazing. And then you have the Tomb King undeads, which are like a load of ancient Egypt style, you know, mummies and war chariots and all kinds of great skeletal stuff without any of the vampire stuff. Vampire Masquerade, I hear that, like, some of the games are absolute legends, and they're absolute must-plays, and I should get around to playing them. But then I might be thinking of another series, but I think isn't this the one where there's like a lot of them and some of them aren't particularly great? There was another game that I saw a friend stream a little bit of, like direct stream to me rather than through Twitch or anything else, that was called like Vampire, but like the end of the name is spelled YR instead of the I. And that was a game that came out that I thought was kind of good. You like play as a singular guy, and it's more like a role-playing game. And I thought that seemed kind of cool. Vampire, perhaps you would pronounce it. And I was really, really enjoying it, and he was streaming it every day so that I wasn't missing any of it. And then one day, he wasn't, and I'm just like, oh, okay. After a few days, I was like, are we going to see any more of that? And he's just like, no, I didn't like it. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, damn, I liked it, and now I'm not going to see the end. But I guess I'll go and play it at some point. Yeah, I do, that's one of the things that's there in the Vampire Counts in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, is that they have different bloodlines, and the different vampires are special in their own areas. So for the sounds of it, I really like this this vampire, the Masquerade. Ah, Necrons. So you're playing the Space Tomb Kings, as I like to think of them, because I'm more of a Warhammer Fantasy battle guy. But yeah, nice. Wow, so many people that like Warhammer. That's cool. We're all into all of the same stuff. We've all gravitated into the same place. That's kind of awesome. But yeah, like Total War Warhammer is like a mix of turn-based Civilization, if you've played those games, Civilization's kind of empire management, and then when you get to the combat portions, it's real-time combat, but you can play it all multiplayer and have a campaign going. And in the most recent game, they made all of the turn-based part of the campaign, while you're playing multiplayer, kind of works simultaneously as well. You can't take your next turn until everyone's finished their turn, but everyone can take their turn at the same time. So it's a lot more fun and a lot less sitting around waiting for someone to finish their turn, because you can be doing parts of your turn while you're waiting for them. And then when you get to the battle section, you can have like up to 8 people playing this thing. When you get to the battle, you can select your units and dish them out to the other people playing. Or the other people playing can click to play as the enemy in your battle, so that instead of the AI, you're playing head-to-head, even if it's not their armies. So it gets really, really interesting. You can just be playing multiplayer to kind of screw each other over and play the other enemies around you that would normally be generic enemy AIs until you get closer to each other, your kingdoms. But you can take over that stuff just to like have a human player and ruin your friend's day during his turn, or you know, if you're playing just random online, just do it with other people. And it's quite cool. It's not entirely the tabletop in places, because it has to convert to the other format where it's, you know, real time rather than turn-based. But yeah, if you ever want to check out any Warhammer Fantasy Battle that's in video games, I totally recommend Total War Warhammer.
Well struck. Farewell and good fortune.
I kind of wish I was more interested in Warhammer 40,000, because whenever you do meet someone that's, you know, into Games Workshop stuff, it is Warhammer 40,000. It's told by a friend of mine that like the popularity difference is like 1,000 to 1 people kind of like Warhammer 40,000 compared to people that are interested in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. It's quite shocking. I think the closest I got to regular Warhammer 40,000 was they had a game that was called like a Epic Warhammer 40,000, and it was like more zoomed out. All of the models are like absolutely tiny because you have the bigger vehicles and like the planet-ending machines in your armies. So I played Warhammer 40,000 super zoomed out away from the individual squads and things. Like a squad is just represented by like the smallest thing you have on the table. Yeah, well that's the interesting thing. They did retire it for Age of Sigmar, but they actually have a new product coming out called... Oh man, that Legion event ended as I got there. They have a new product coming out called The Old World, where they're bringing Warhammer Fantasy Battle back. But I think the thing that kicked this off is not that people dislike Age of Sigmar. Apparently people do quite like Age of Sigmar. But it's the popularity of the newer video games that I was talking about. Total War Warhammer has shown Games Workshop that there is a really big following still for all of their old Warhammer Fantasy Battle stuff. So because Sega, Games Workshop and Creative Assembly have made so much money out of launching 3 video games under that premise, they've decided that there is money in it after all, and it's coming back. They've got lots of preview stuff out actually for the old world. Tons of different details about Bretonnia, Tomb Kings, Orcs and Goblins, and so on. So we'll be seeing a lot more of that again